It is time now for a rundown on some of our national and international stories. First, the Ukraine has established new danger zones for flights over the Black Sea. Now, this is a restriction not just for military, but for any aircraft going into the area, something which Russia is saying is a provocation. This is coming at a time that the international community is trying to reestablish normal flight patterns over the Black Sea. And for Ukraine to say this is too dangerous, don't fly over there, it's something that Russia now says is a, quote, provocation. That's a report from TASS. I like to try to give you some of the stories from TASS and the BBC, Daily Mail, some of the sources that are not your mainstream media sources, but that are still real news. The Chernobyl shield has finally been completed, something that they've been trying to do now for decades, actually putting a kind of a containment over the radioactive spot. Still, after so many years, over 30 years, that area has been leaking radioactive contamination. A comedian in Australia, just minutes after the Brazilian football team, the soccer guys, were killed in a plane crash, he tweeted out what he has apologized for as a sick joke, something we're going to talk about in our commentary today. And it's one of those things where basically he was trying to be funny, being a spur-of-the-moment, instant access on Twitter kind of a guy, and he made a poor choice. And obviously, with 75 people dead in a plane crash, he made a joke which some might see as funny, some might see as always in poor taste, like a Holocaust joke, always in poor taste. Point is, the comedian was immediately hit with a whole bunch of backlash and has since apologized for that joke. A report from the Hindustan Times notes that President Trump, or President-elect Trump, has been certified in Michigan, meaning that he gets all 16 of the electoral votes. That now also starts the clock ticking for the Green Party's try at a recount. The fact that there are still people holding on to a sliver of hope that we may still see a President Clinton is something that a number of folks around the country and now also apparently around the world find disturbing. If you'd like to read about that, it's been picked up in almost all of the major news sources. Once again, the Hindustan Times running a story noting that in the electoral process, because of the Electoral College, all 16 of those votes going to Trump means that he now has over 300 electoral votes, ensuring his win. There's been a major series of fires in the Great Smoky Mountains that's left 3 people dead, injured others, just vast swaths of destruction. They even closed Dollywood because of the threat of the smoke. Also a sad story out of California. 3 people have died, 5 others still, actually a number were hospitalized. I guess a couple of them are out of the hospital now, but once again, 3 people dead from food poisoning after taking part at a Thanksgiving meal at a church. And lastly, from North Dakota, we see that the latest efforts to quell the pipeline protests has to do with blocking off the flow of supplies to the protesters. They had toyed with the idea of setting up an actual roadblock. Now they're saying they're just simply going to stop drivers that they think are taking supplies in and threaten them with $1,000 fines, hoping that that in and of itself is going to be enough to make them not take the supplies into the protesters and thereby making the protesters give up protesting. That's what we've got for our news. Once again, you want to see the commentary, you'll find that link right here, as well as a link to some Alaska news. If you like what I'm doing, check it out online at radiofreespeech.com. Please consider becoming a supporter and help us have some actual real conversations. As soon as I get some phone lines in, we'll start doing some call-in shows. radiofreespeech.com. Check it out.